Welcome to the Creation to Cashflow podcast. On this podcast, we discuss strategies to maximize your creativity and help you achieve financial freedom. How's it going, Michelle?
It's great. I am using a new microphone today. I don't know if it if anybody can tell, but it's the microphone Nick has that I bought in 2023 and literally never opened or unboxed. Literally, I think it's been like 6 months. I don't know why I took so long to do it, but I couldn't find my microphone today, so it was a happy accident. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And that leads us into today's perfect topic because we're going to talk about decluttering and de-influencing and buying things that you don't need and when you should buy things that you do need and all sorts of good things like that. So maybe this was all meant to happen today.
Just like your pineapple's dying, it was meant to happen so we could talk about it and encourage people to not give up whenever you spent 2 years growing a pineapple plant. You just get back on the horse.
There we go. Now I'm sad again about the
I'm
pineapples.
sorry.
It's still no, it's an open wound, but we got to I'll heal. I'll heal. By next year, I should be able to talk about it again.
Wait,
Uh
no, you have to plant a new one. We're both going to plant a pineapple plant this week simultaneously, okay?
okay. I need to go get a new pineapple because the other one wasn't perfect. I had one and I was like, I could plant this one, but it wasn't perfect. You want one that's like got a bushier top just to
Oh,
start you off with some momentum.
okay. I'll go to Whole Foods after this. I need to Google how to actually do it, but let's do it and let's not have an open wound. Let's close that wound up and get back on the horse.
We're going to start off with de-influencing because a lot of our listeners are content creators or want to be content creators, or you have a business or you're building a business, and all of that just means that you either have some sort of authority or influence over people or you're looking to get it, and not in a bad way like you want to have authority over people, but what I mean by that is like people look up to you and people observe what decisions you make, and you are a role model whether you like it or not. Even if you're not a content creator or business owner, you are a role model. People look at what you do because people are nosy, and we all want to learn from each other. So we have a moral obligation to make some decent decisions at the least. So first I want to just get into like what is de-influencing, because we all have influence now that we cleared that up. Michelle, what would you describe de-influencing as?
It's so funny. There's so many definitions of de-influencing. One of the most common ones is it's still influencing, but it's influencing people to not be influenced. And so it's such a broad thing. But for me, it's basically, I think of it as like just bringing an awareness to the normal things that we are influenced by. Like it's basically not just influencing things, but also talking about things that we don't want to be influenced by or that we are not influenced by.
Yeah, that feels like a really solid definition, because to me, like I feel like I feel like I'm a de-influencer because I always talk about how I don't buy things, and I almost try and I try and make it a trend not to buy things. Like I joke on this podcast sometimes. I'm like, "Oh yeah, like once per year I like go buy new clothes for myself." And that quite literally means like a new pair of like bamboo shorts. But like that really is kind of how I live. Like if you if you watch these on YouTube or go look at the short form clips, like just go back and you'll be like, he really wears the same shirts fairly often. Like you'll see trends like this, and I love it because I don't want to feel like I'm making the world a worse place or a more cluttered place because of my own desire for materialistic things. Cause like, trust me, I would love and I could afford to buy myself new clothes and go get really nice things. But there's something special about a solid colored cotton shirt that you can wear over and over. The one episode, I just remember this. I have a blue Florida Atlantic University shirt, long sleeve, that has 4 gigantic holes in it. Michelle, I ripped the shit out of it the other day, putting it on. Like now, one of the sleeves is now pretty much fully removed. We did have to say goodbye. So along with the pineapples, now I'm down a shirt. So we're taking heavy hits this April. But anyway, let me kick it to you, Michelle, to just like talk a little about how how de-influencing like happens in your life.
Well, I'm basically the same way when it comes to clothes. Like I if anybody watches this, I wear the same solid color. Either it's a pullover, like hoodie, jacket, or it's a sports bra with a jacket over it, which is what I'm wearing today. And it's the same colors, it's the same exact item. There's two reasons why I'm like this. Number one is because I'm not for fast fashion. We will get into that, but it's also because I don't have a lot of space to have a lot of clothes and clutter, and I just don't like clutter. Like clutter, I buy things because they help me organize. Like a ton of my stuff is like organizing, space saving finds, like stuff like that. And so there's reasons why I do it, but I think the main one is I just don't have the space for it. And I don't want to make more space. I don't want a bigger space just so I can have more things because that doesn't bring me joy and happiness.
Yeah, that's a really good example, and I relate completely because when there's clutter, I feel anxious and depressed, quite literally. Like when I have stuff out, I feel awful. I feel just the worst. And your environment has so much to do with how you feel. So decluttering is like this amazing tool. Like I know so many people that think it's so stupid and they always shit on me for making my bed. And like I'm a human, I might not make my bed always, but like it makes me feel so good when I return to my room after a long day and it's pristine. Like I'm like, "Oh, what a relief."
Why would somebody make fun of you for making your bed? Do people like that exist? Like people actually care whether or not somebody else makes their bed? Like I'm so confused. That's so weird.
Yeah, I think it's just because it might hurt people's feelings because I may not. I mean, not. I don't think that I would ever say it in like a mean way, but it's almost like I'm out there being like, I'm better than you because I make my bed, and I think some people might take it that way sometimes, and feel offended because they're like, I don't make my bed and I'm still fine, and I'm like, if we really were to like have a conversation with a person like that, I'd be like, are you fine? Like after a long day, do you love walking into your room and seeing that it looks like shit? Does that actually make you feel good? Like I gotta figure no.
Well, okay. I know this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but that is if somebody's putting somebody else down for doing something, that is an insecurity and they're literally projecting that insecurity out onto that other person. Like if I would never care what somebody else is doing. That's just like what? So no, I don't think that they're okay and I think that if you're putting someone else down for doing something that makes them happy, you need to evaluate why is it affecting you so much what somebody else is doing. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox.
You it's true though, like everything you do and see in your environment, even like scrolling on social media, like it affects how you feel. We can't deny that. So, we all kind of have a duty to because everyone constantly posts about things that they buy. You should buy this, you should buy that. And it's like, oh, this can become quite a like moral dilemma, especially with content creators that you and I work with a lot. And they're like, sometimes people are being paid to promote a product and they're like, I don't think this product even works or helps people. And it's like, oof, tough. That's a tough situation because you're supposed to be getting paid to promote something and that's how you make a living. But now you might have a dilemma of like, but what do I do? Like, I got to make a living, and I make a living getting other people to buy this thing and this thing might not work. And like, we can all get trapped in a very bad cycle.
Well, that also makes me want to bring up that it's okay to tell a brand, no, this doesn't work, or no, I'm not going to pretend like I've been using this for 30 days and seeing results when you've given me 2 days to make this video and I haven't been using it long enough. Like, I think that's another moral dilemma where it's like, if it doesn't work, you have to make your honesty and trust be a priority over what you're getting paid to say X, Y, and Z. Now, I have to say this too, because as an actress, I am not Michelle when I'm acting. If I'm in a commercial for a brand, coconut water or something, I'm doing a commercial for them, I am not Michelle in that commercial. I'm literally a paid actor. But when you're doing content creation or UGC and your name is behind it and you're actually being who you are, that is your name behind it. And I think that's whenever you really have to be like, you have to stay true to what you actually feel and believe, you know?
Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. And it it kind of leads into like the next thing that I want to talk about because like this just matters to you and I. Like we actually care a lot about the world and the environment. Like sometimes I sit there and I stress myself out thinking about like how much people just like overconsume things they don't need and like plastic pollution, and I can sit there and like actually get myself in a fit over the things that are happening, and I'm like, "Oh, I wish I could just like use my platform to like help and make that better." And like obviously, someone listening to our podcast, hopefully this is just a reminder to, just make good ethical choices and purchases. But it would be really interesting. Like me and Michelle were talking not that long ago on an episode about like going and doing like a mission trip and like some kind of cleanup, because there is no better feeling than cleaning up and making the world a better place. Like it could be something small, like you could just be like cleaning the leaves in your backyard, or it could be something massive like trying to help like fix the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. But no matter what, like it just feels good to clean and declutter.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many different avenues we could go with this with this topic because it is there's so much. Like it's more than just the plastic in the Pacific Ocean, you know? Like even our clothing that we're donating, the donations are overbearing. Like they sometimes can't even take on more clothing that we're trying to donate, and it ends up in West Africa and ends up in their ocean, and then all the microplastics end up in the fish that we're consuming. So it's just this, cycle that society has. We're coming to actually understand it more now than I think we ever have. But I like to talk about it because I wouldn't know if somebody else didn't talk about it and I heard them talk about it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like clothing and food are two of the big ones because like everyone has to buy these two things, but like where you buy it and where you're telling other people to buy it as an influencer or a person with influence, which as we discussed before is everyone, that all matters so much. Like last week, I bought this made me so excited. There's like the highlight of my week. Last week, I bought a bunch of raw milk and raw milk ice cream from like this tiny farm in Pennsylvania that like delivers it all the way to me. And it was so much more expensive than just like going to ShopRite and buying a bunch of pasteurized milk that's just mass produced. But like it made me so excited to do this, and I reached out to that farm and I was like, "Can I like promote this? Can I like post about this for you guys?" And they're like, "That would be so amazing if you did." So like I made them a video, and it's just on Instagram and it has like 10,000 views already, which just makes me feel so good cuz they don't even have 10,000 followers. Like it's a small farm, and I was like, "I can't wait to get everything from them from now on." And they sent me this nice like engraved wooden spoon too that's just like, "For your first purchase, like we're so excited that you're a new customer." And they hand wrote a note. And I was like, "Oh my god, like where you buy stuff from matters so much." Cuz like I think it was $13 for a gallon of raw milk, but like whatever. Now like I appreciate it. Like when I'm making a protein shake and I'm like pouring that in, I'm like, "Oh my god, I feel so good about this decision, and it's better for my body too." And like this is the good feeling you get when you like, where you shop, like you're making a choice.
Yeah. Oh my god. That is like everything I live for is helping promote those kinds of people, Like that makes me so happy. Like somebody had a passion to create this farm and like they deliver and they do all these extra things. That's what I really like about small businesses is that they're so intentional. Like when I bought that blue spirulina cashew butter, um have you seen me post about that? It's like the cashew butter,
Yeah.
it's blue. So many people have reached out to me like, "Is it actually good? How much did they pay you?" And I was like, "No, they never paid me. I never asked for a collaboration. I saw a small business owned by females. Like they had this thing. I was like, let me try it. It looks interesting and it tastes like heaven." My sister, who is the biggest de-influencer in the world, she is so savvy when it comes to like, she only thrifts, like whatever. She came over yesterday and was like, "I have to try this. Like, you've been promoting this." And I just promoted it because I genuinely wanted to. And they're so like they know me now. They've DM'd me personally. It's just these kinds of relationships where we can use our influence to help small businesses, to help people who are trying to be more sustainable and bring more healthy things to society. And I just love that we have the opportunity to turn it for good.
Yeah, it's so it like, you just kinda lit up the same way I did, and I'm like, we're talking about milk and cashew butter, but, like, oh my god, it's so exciting to me, like, I was like for the days leading up to this arriving, like, I was like a kid at Christmas, like, I was like, "It's coming tomorrow," you know, like, I can't wait, and I'm, like, waiting for my milkman to show up so I could, like, give him a couple bucks, and, like, it was just so exciting, and you don't get that excitement. If anything, I feel like every time I buy stuff from, like, ShopRite, I feel just a little bit like, "Oh, like, this is what I'm supporting, huh?" Like, I'm buying my steak from here when, like, I know this is not as good of quality. I know the people behind it might not actually, like, care about me. So I'm just going to try and get everything I possibly can from this farm now because they have a whole lot of stuff. They have all sorts of like honey and meat and amazing things. And I feel like that's all I need to be happy.
What's the name of the farm?
It's Miller's Bio Farm.
Okay. And what is ShopRite?
ShopRite.
What is
That's
that? Is
funny.
that a grocery store?
That's funny. Yeah, ShopRite is a grocery store. That's so
Oh.
funny that you haven't heard of that. I thought you probably have ShopRites by you.
Let me Google it. I have never heard of that in my life.
So right is spelled RITE, shop right, like that. Interesting. That's kind of a big one over here. And like I know in Florida and like southern states they have Publix.
Oh, Publix. I've heard of Publix before. I've never been, but I've heard of it. No, there's none near Los Angeles, Nick. I don't know where they are located, but it's not located in
How
a.
about Stop and Shop? Have you ever heard of that one? This is interesting. They're just like giant conglomerate food stores that are everywhere.
Do you have like a Whole Foods or like a Sprouts?
Yeah, I do have a Whole Foods. Whole Foods is pretty good. You have to be very selective at Whole Foods. Like they also have a lot of sneaky bad stuff, like sneaky unhealthy things that like look healthy, and then you look at the ingredients, and you're like, I
Hmm.
caught you.
Interesting. Ours won't even sell Coke. Like you have the stevia brand of like soda. And so when my dad comes into town, he's like, "Can we go somewhere that actually sells Coke products?" Like those kinds of products. I'm like, "Yeah, Whole Foods, you're not going to find anything that's not healthy." So it's interesting that you said that. I'm curious. I mean, obviously there's like sugars and gums and like a lot of stuff. But anyway, we're so off topic.
Yeah, we could reel it in a little bit, and just kind of like let's dive into like the fast fashion thing a little bit because that's to me like I didn't realize how bad that it was. Like I used to think it was like wise to buy something from like a place where it's cheap, and you're like, oh, cool, like I'm gonna save some money, and if I make this last, like, am I doing a good thing? And the answer is probably not.
And there's two reasons why. Well, there's two main reasons. There's a lot. So we obviously just touched on like the pollution and the clothing. I mean, there's also the whole like the sweatshops and how people are getting taken advantage of, and they have like 16-hour days and they're paid $2 a day maybe, and they have like a time frame. They can't even. I've watched like the Shein documentary. I've watched the recent one, the Brandy Hellville, the Cult of Fast Fashion. So there's a lot of information out there just to educate yourself on. But a lot of these brands are also stealing designs from actual artists and from people like that have a small boutique, a business. You know how we just got excited about food? A lot of people feel that way about boutiques, like small business owners that like use sustainable plastic, like recycled plastic for their clothes instead of making new cotton clothes, like people that are very intentional to bring value into the world in a sustainable way. And Shein and AliExpress, like a lot of these places, they just steal designs from those people. It's like when people upload a video on Instagram and it says original audio, but they stole that song from a different artist. It like hurts me every time where I'm like, why can you not just credit the original person and give them that exposure? It's the same kind of concept, but there are people that spend their hard time and effort and money into creating fashion pieces that are supposed to last, but then these fast fashion places steal the design, do it in a way lower quality, charge $7, which again, that's amazing. That's a great price. Like when I was broke, I wanted to buy all those things. But we had to ask ourselves like, why are we wanting to get this? Who is it benefiting? Is this going to be a good purchase in the long run?
Yeah, it's true. It all matters so much, And like, even though this episode might not be like the typical thing that we talk about, like business and mindset, it actually matters maybe more because, we could talk about those things all day, but like the choices you make in your day-to-day life, like what you eat and what you buy, and these are decisions that we have to make every day. They matter so, so much. Like I feel like you and I could have a whole podcast, not just episode, but like a whole podcast dedicated to just talking about those things. I don't know how this hasn't come up sooner. Um, but it matters so much, and it gets me fired up because like there are things that we can do to help. Like that's why I got so excited to just like order food from a farm, and like when there's a farmers market, like when I was in Costa Rica a month or two ago, and I went to like a couple of different farmers markets there. Also, there's no rules at these farmers markets. Like you could buy like honey infused with like psychedelic mushrooms and things, which is so cool. There's a lot of cool things you can do there. Um, Great honey. And anyway, like it was just amazing. Like the whole community just comes together and they're like, hey, like I got coconuts, like you got fresh fish, like here's everything. Here's like locally sourced ingredients. And you could buy them with Bitcoin too, which is also neat because now you're just living this like decentralized life, and it just made me so happy to just buy a bunch of things from there and buy gifts for other people and handmade things. Like I have the nicest cutting board that I got from one of these, and it was like handmade by someone down there. It was very heavy, and I looked at it and I was like, "Oh my god, this is beautiful." And in my mind, I was like, "If it's less than $200, I'm getting this." And I was like, "How much for this?" And he was like, $25. And I was like, I might take all of them. And it just feels so good to support small businesses. It really does.
Yes, there's something that we have to do in the future that can like help support small businesses because the thing is when we invest in them, they can continue their operations and grow their operations. I know all big businesses start as small businesses. Like a lot of the corporations were once just a small business in a garage. Like I get it. But as businesses continue to grow, I think it's so important that they continue to think about sustainability. And if you're a business owner yourself and you have any products, like I want to tell you that it's way more effective to find people that would actually care about your product and want to use it and are knowledgeable about stuff rather than just finding people with the most followers that might not care, that maybe have an audience, but like if they're not in alignment with what you're providing, I don't think it's as good of an investment as like somebody that actually is a dietitian that might not have any followers, but like has good clients. You don't know. When people obviously get excited about stuff, we feel that. Like I just felt Nick's energy about the goat milk and the cutting board. Like I want that cutting board. I want one myself. Like I want the raw milk. I can get that here in LA. You can't get it in New Jersey, but I got excited because I feel your excitement. So it's just like partnering with people that are going to feel that too, especially when it comes to like beauty and skincare as well. That's another one that is so wasteful.
Yeah, that's a bad one. And like I'm a horrible example to talk about this because like I only use like the soap. I use Dr. Squatch soap, and which it's made of like clay, salt, and like aloe, and they're like, "That's your soap." And I'm like, "Yes, like that's it for me." And like I barely use anything. Like I just need like a toothbrush, and I don't even think you could count this as toothpaste, but like what I brush my teeth with is this like activated coconut charcoal, eggshell powder, clay like mixture, and I just brush my teeth with it, and it's like this black like
Mhm.
gook, but it feels amazing to use that because I'm like, okay, well, it's better than like fluoride filled chemicals. And they're like, yeah, if you swallow this, you'll probably die. But if you can call poison control within 5 minutes, and it's just the norm to be using things like that. And I'm like, how did we get to this point? Like, even sunblock, like, sunblock is so good and important. Like, I use sunblock. But like we didn't that's a pretty new invention. They didn't have copper tone sport in 1845. A lot of these things that we buy, like we don't really need.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because it makes me feel like I'll just never buy anything. How long can I go with like buying as few things as possible in this life and just knowing that like my abundance does not come from stuff. Like
Yeah.
stuff, it's a battle. Cuz like the other day like my friend gave me an electric guitar that he does not use. And I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so happy about this because like it's secondhand. I didn't have to go like
Mm.
buy it. Like it was wasting away because he doesn't use it or know how to play it." And I was like, that made me so happy. And then I like step back and I was like, well, my happiness isn't tied to this though. I was like, I'm happy either way, but like I'm grateful that I now have this thing that is going to bring me joy and is not being wasted. You know, it's not going to end up in a landfill like it may have. I'm giving it like a second home instead of, but then there's also the other side and I was like, oh, but what if I go buy one from someone who's hand making electric guitars? So it's hard. It's really hard.
Well, I think either way you're thinking about it. You're not just mindlessly roaming around doing what everyone else is doing. I think that's where we all start. I think that's good. I think we can't change everything overnight. We don't need to get mad at people that don't think about these things, but I think that just having a conversation and being honest about what is happening, how can we be a little bit better just to contribute to the betterment of the society as a whole? I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's important that you're even caring that much about, wait, should I support the small business owner or should I like try to help prevent waste? Like both are good, like there's not one or the other. It's not black and white. But if we're not talking about this, we're not doing a service to what we care about.
True, true. And it's that I think that's the reminder I need sometimes is like not to overthink these things, but just like spend time thinking about like what decisions do I make on a daily basis and how are they contributing to like my most abundant life and self? Not materialistically, just like how do I just make decisions that make me feel abundant? Because it's not by buying a bunch of stuff. It's not by buying stuff at all. Like as I started to like make money and like leave my job and I was like I feel like abundance right now. I feel like I want to buy a bunch of things and that will make me feel good. And then you do it and you're like now I just have a lot of stuff around and I'm not actually happier. You still have to get back to the root of like what actually makes me feel happy in this life and it's helping other people. It's meditating and it's music and it's like these are the things that actually matter, not stuff. So what I try to just ask myself is like do I really need this?
Yeah.
That's the big question.
And if you get it sent to you, what can you do with it besides throw it out or just let it waste away? Like there are so many people who don't have things. Like there's a lot of moms, shelters. There's like a baby, there's like a place I could volunteer downstairs right across the way. And I forgot what it's called, something for babies, but they basically, you can volunteer and put together like these boxes with baby clothes and essentials like diapers for moms who either left abusive situations or they're just in low income housing. Like there's people out there that want face cream, that want the under eye cream, like I have a lot of these skincare things, but the thing is, I don't try out a ton of different brands. I kind of stick to the same things because they're all the same ingredients for the most part. And I want to protect my skin and preserve that, especially as an actress. Like I want to keep playing younger roles, but it's like I don't want to just be somebody who gets 100 different skincare products in and then nothing, like they just go to waste. That's just not, that doesn't make me happy. And I also don't want to just have clutter everywhere. It just clutters my mind. So the things I buy, like I said earlier, I buy a lot of storage containers because I can put all the clutter in one of those. And I'm like, okay, when I need moisturizer, I can go to this little box, this bin, but it's not in my way. It's not my mind. I'm not roaming around looking at all the things I have around. Like I cannot stand when stuff is just out of place. Like it distracts me. My ADHD takes over and I'm like, I'm going to sit in a corner and do nothing because now this candle's looking at me and it doesn't belong there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like dishes in the sink, I will end my life over it. Like and like I don't actually feel that way, but like
Okay.
little things like that sometimes like it's like, oh, I just feel better when things are when there's just not a lot. When there's not a lot. Like my my brother laughs at me constantly because he's like, you quite literally would just live in a room with a bed and nothing else, and like a car that doesn't have like. I was so upset when cars started having screens. I was like, no, like I just want to have nothing. I don't even want the air. I don't even want the AC to work. I just want like, does it go and drive and reverse? And like some of these things I can't prevent, and I'm obviously super dramatic over, but it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to like push myself to the limit of like how little can I consume. There's this one guy named Gary Sanchez, I think his last name is, from that show I love, Naked and Afraid, where they people just go live in these crazy environments with nothing. And he has this giant tattoo on his back in these super bold letters, like you can't miss. Like it's not like script where people are like, what does that say? You know what this says. And it says consume as little as possible. And I'm like, put that all over my body. I feel like one day I'm gonna get that tattooed on me. I don't have a desire right now for any tattoos. I feel like your first one, like everyone's like, oh, it's gotta be so meaningful. And then the second one, it's like just like a pinup girl.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, here's another cool thing too that I do that it makes people really happy. Anyone I work with in my business where like I teach people to make and sell digital products, what I do is I buy secondhand the 5 a.m. club, like used, and then I hand write a letter for them and then I ship it to them. And it's like that's like my like little taste of like thanks for supporting my small business, like here's something that you're going to love. And I fill a page sometimes too, like with these letters I write people, and they just are like, oh my god, I just got the most amazing thing from you, and I just feel so like touched because I love when people do that for me. But like you said before, as businesses grow, sometimes they might like lose that little thing that makes them special and makes them a small business, and my goal is to never lose that.
That is amazing. Truly. I mean, the thing is too, okay, so I have so much I want to say. And I know you probably have talking points, but I feel like this podcast is kind of all over the place, but I like it because these are things that we need to be talking about and like
Yeah.
we just don't talk about. Okay, so what a lot of people do, the reason I typically would not consume content like what we're talking about is because I feel like people are coming at me or putting me down because I bought a shirt from Amazon or because I don't always recycle every single thing I do. Like there's a lot of people out there that are passionate about sustainability and decluttering and de-influencing, but the way that they communicate their passions is very, it doesn't feel good. It's a bad vibe. It's a very like you're acting like you're better than me, like I'm a horrible person. I just want to say that the things that we do as a society aren't really our fault because we didn't know any better. We don't know any better unless we're talking about these things. And I don't want to put down any influencers for things that they do. Say that they do get 100 different skincare products in. That's okay. Like if if you're doing that and you're just not aware of what that could be doing to our environment or other people, like okay, I'm not putting you down. I've been there. I bought from Shein one time and I had this small business owner that owns a boutique like post a story about how she hates these companies and I just genuinely had no idea about them, Nick. I didn't know what fast fashion was. I just saw a shirt that was cheaper than what it would be at even Walmart and I was like, "Let me get on that train" because I made no money back then. And so I think that if we're not aware of these things, let's just become aware. Watch those documentaries I mentioned. Just become aware of it. Like don't be put off by these conversations because some people out there are just a little intense about their passion and like you know what I mean, it just honestly pushes me away, especially with politics. The old men that get at me, I feel like they come at me and I'm like, stop coming at me, like don't do that. You're gonna push away people because I don't want to feel what you feel angry. That's the vibe I get from you, and I don't want to feel the way you feel, so I'm not going to do what you're doing. I think that that's a good like topic just in general with whatever you care about. Be careful about how you communicate this because you can come off really not good.
This is definitely a really good talking point because you're right. Like, and it's hard too because some people are in a situation where they're like, I can't afford the nice clothes. I have to buy from Shein. And that also makes it so hard too because sometimes it feels like these businesses are like, for that reason, almost like preying on people that like that can't, like that don't have another option. And it's hard. Society is tough right now. We actually live in a really like difficult time, even though some things are made a lot easier. It's hard to make good choices right now because oftentimes good choices are way more expensive, and a lot of people are like, I know so many people that are just barely getting by every single month, and like it's getting worse and worse. And like, not to make it political, but like it's hard. And I also feel for anyone that's like, I wish I could pay $13 for a gallon of milk, but like I can't, I have to buy it from ShopRite or Whole Foods or wherever. So like this is also an important thing to call out, is like sometimes we got to just do our best. And what it makes me think of is like, I don't know like where this analogy like is used or first came up, but it's like the guy who like the guy who, this is like a made up thing, like a tale almost, but it's like the guy who robs a bakery because he lost his job and like steal and like has to steal bread to feed his family. And it's like, who's at fault here? It's like, is it the guy who owns the bakery because of his prices? Is it the person who fired the guy from his job? Is it the guy who stole but has to feed his family? And it's like, it's so hard because we could always point the finger at someone or something else. And that's why it's like, what makes me feel good is like just doing what I can.
Yeah, that's enough too. Like I said all that to say exactly what you're saying. Like do what you can do. Do your best. Like and that's enough and don't let other people feel like you're not doing enough, but also don't be the kind of person that just kind of ignores like all of the things and just think, oh well, other people are recycling, I don't really need to focus on that, like whatever, it doesn't affect me. I would just encourage you to just go inform yourself a little bit more, because that's really what got me to care and actually listen, because I'm just like, dang, these people are intense, like get me the hell away from these kinds of people, because that's not the energy that I want to surround myself with. But in reality, I get it, like they're just fired up about it. But I agree, Nick. And that's why I'm saying like some action steps are just be mindful when you're scrolling on TikTok shop. If there's a nugget ice maker machine that they want to send you or that you want to buy, but you have an ice maker and you don't ever throw parties, and there's really no reason for you to need an extra ice maker for your countertop. Do you even have space for it? Like just question, like, is this going to be good for me? Is this going to make my life easier? This is always what I ask myself. Does this add value to my life? Like, is this a hack? Is this going to make my life easier, save me time? For example, my wet vac, it's a vacuum and a mop in one, and it doesn't require any physical pushing. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna buy that for $500 because it saves me so much time and keeps me healthy because it keeps my floors clean. And like, that to me is a good purchase. A nugget ice maker is not a good purchase. So you have to ask yourself, what is good for you? Does it make sense? Like, is it gonna make your life easier and better? And also, do you need it? Is it something you need? Is it going to organize your boxes and get clutter out of your head so you can be a better person and happier and make more money? Get it. Get those things. That's fine. But be careful with what you do with it when you don't want it anymore. Donate it. Give it to somebody in need. Give it to your sister so she can sell it on Facebook Marketplace because she needs money.
I love that. I love that. And also, I love that. That sounds like a great vacuum, by the way, too.
Oh
Just
my
wanted
God.
to,
It's amazing. It's
yeah.
amazing.
All of that too just makes me like, I've been feeling pretty called lately to try, and obviously I can't solve all of the world's problems, right? There's only so much I can do. I'm just a person. But to like come up with my own product that can like essentially replace something that's less sustainable. If you ever have any ideas for something like that, run them by me, because like I'm I have the like inventor gene, like did I ever tell you about like the
Light bulb, Christmas bulb for the tree.
yeah, like the little exploding Christmas tree ornament that
Amazing.
like would save lives, quite
Yes.
literally. Hopefully someone just takes that and does that one, because that one's a little too heavy of a lift for me right now, especially when I was 19. But anyway, My grandpa was an inventor and like has like a couple patents just for like little like trinkets and things. But like I want to invent something that just makes the world better. Maybe it's a toothpaste, maybe it's some kind of snack, maybe it's some sort of device that is just sustainable and makes people like produce less waste. But like I want to do something like that for the world so badly because I just feel so good when making sustainable choices, and if I and when I help other people make sustainable choices. Like I made all my friends come over and like drink this raw milk and be like, "What do you think of this? Like this is different, I know, but like what do you think of it?" And like one of my buddies was like, "I'm probably going to get this." He was like, "Will they give me a wood spoon too?" And I was like, "I think they just might." Um and it makes me happy to like put people on to things that are going to actually make their life better.
Also, I do know there, like, so say that you're not an inventor for any listener, there are things out there that are getting made. Like, there is, for example, under eye patches. You know, those little under eye patches that people wear to like depuff their eyes? There's reusable ones now that just like they're released, and that's an invention where there used to be so much waste for these little plastic things, but now there's like a reusable one. You could use it for a whole month. You could put it in the freezer and make it cool. There's like the little tampon replacer. Sorry, Nick, but like instead of like the plastic tampons, like there's like this like applicator thing you can like, it's like a cup that will collect all the things and it's reusable. And so there's like things that people are making. So I would say that's another good investment and something that is good that you can promote. Like, hey, there's people out there that are trying to make little bitty changes, but if you can influence or just, invest in these little things so that more people can find out about them, I think that's something so small we can all do, even if we're not cool like Nick and sit there and invent really cool things.
Yeah, that's a really good like couple of examples there and some practical steps too. Like if you find something that you're like this is worth promoting and I will feel good about promoting it, then do it cuz that's like a big dilemma I had when I started like working with brands. I was like I just want to work with any brand that'll send me money and a product, and quickly I was like that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. I would much rather like get paid to work with, even if I'm getting paid less, I'd rather get paid less and have to work harder for the right brands than just like work with anyone who's like, we got budget because we're selling a piece of shit to everyone and everyone's buying it and it's viral. And I'm like, so,
Yeah, I'm the
you
same
know,
way. I'm the same way. And I feel like we're rewarded for that in different ways, Like, I still can't believe we have a podcast. This is like 56 or 50, what?
this is 56th episode.
That's beautiful. The fact that we even have anyone who listens and like we've experienced all these dead pineapples and hard things in life and that we could talk about it. I'm
I'm
sorry
sad
I keep
again.
bringing it up.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'll be fine eventually. It's still,
Well, it's the only thing that I'm like, what has gone wrong in Nick's life lately? That's literally the only thing I can even like think of that you have any dilemma about. And so I'm sorry, but it's a good example too.
no, it
But
is.
I don't know. I'm so grateful. And I feel like so many people just look at what are the numbers all the time instead of looking at the bigger picture. Like, if I do X amount, or if I do this for X amount of time, something good will happen. If I do something nice for somebody, even if they don't do it back, I will be rewarded by whatever you believe in, God, the universe, whatever it is, like it will come back to you. And so I think that just like starting to make little changes and caring about everybody as a whole society is something that you're going to be rewarded for too, like the listener.
I'm totally with you. Like you and I are just doing our best. And I used to think like, oh, like once I have enough money, I can make better choices. And I was like, actually, if I stop spending on things that I don't need and want, I can just make better choices now. And then I started to feel better. And then when you start to feel better, you can do more with your life. And it creates a really good snowball effect. So this could be like a 10-hour episode easily where we could just like jump around to all of these things. Like I love it. Clearly we get fired up about this, and not our typical episode, but I hope everyone enjoyed. And if you are looking for a way to let us know, leave us a review, go on to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever you listen on, give us 5 stars, and go to creationtocashflow.com. Submit questions, topics, guests, things that you want us to talk about, things that you want to hear questions you want the answers to, because we love when you guys submit those things, because we do this podcast for you guys, not to preach, but just to help and share our 2 cents, because we're figuring it out too. And with that said, if you're looking for more ways to monetize your creativity and find more freedom in your life, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Even if you get a little behind, at least if you're subscribed, then you'll get a notification and you'll be reminded and you'll get back into it when it's the right time for you. And go check us out on Instagram and TikTok. You can find me at Get Ahead with Nick, and you can find Michelle at Michelle JH. That's Michelle with 2 L's, then 4 E's, JH. And thanks for watching or listening.